Welcome, everybody. It's episode 14. That's right. Episode 14 of Tuned Up. Yeah, damn is right. Of Tuned Up and Tuned In with Vin and me, Phil. Exactly.
Oh, am I that way for you? Oh,
I don't know. I know, mirrored. So it's
you're this way for me.
Well, to the people who are listening to the podcast, none of that matters anyway. If you're watching, you just saw what happened. I guess we're gonna get right back into it, but let's hit our quick bullet points. I think we got them down now to a science. So first and foremost, check out the Vin and Phil Show playlist on Spotify if you'd like to follow along with all of the songs that we've talked about in all of the episodes and all of the songs that will be in this episode. It's always good to stop and take a listen. And
it may be one of the greatest compilations of music you will ever have the privilege of listening to.
It's already over 7 hours of music, and I think I'm going to make it when music starts happening again live and touring things and stuff like that happen. I'm going to make it my touring list because, like, you know, we're going to be up at that length. 7 hours is a good chunk of a ride, and if I don't have to skip a song at any point during that ride, that's a damn good playlist.
Just let that thing go, baby.
That's a damn good playlist. And then I guess next on our list, Vin and I are both working musicians, and at the moment it has been tough. So we're getting by, that's for sure. But if you were feeling a little generous and wanted to help us get by a little easier, that would be wonderful. And you could do that by sending a little something our way via Venmo. Vin's Venmo account is at Vincent-Mott, M-O-T-T. And mine is at Phil-Silverberg, silver like the metal, B-E-R-G. And like I said, if you're feeling generous, send something our way.
Don't be afraid to throw those $500 bills into our accounts.
No, they're not going to help you anyway. They'll help us. They're not going to help you, though. So, and last but not least, we always like to fill you guys in with some of the stuff that we're working on, because we are both the type of musicians to constantly be putting out music the best we can. I know Vin had a recent project out that has been doing amazingly, quite well. And right. I know that he's probably already got another batch of music ready to go.
Yeah, it's getting there. I'm gonna let it grow a little while. Like you said, I just put out Country Blues in Quarantine. My first ever completely DIY project that I've ever done all myself. But I figure I just put that out, so I'm not in any rush to put the next one out. So I'm gonna let it simmer and collect some more recordings. But I'm doing all the recordings myself once again, and having a couple of special guests other than Steve Kirsty. I got a track out to Sean Ronan as we speak right now. So you could check out the past episode where we had Sean Ronan.
Sure
on
can.
the podcast talking about solos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's it's so far I'm digging the music. It's all original, like all my other stuff. And, yeah, just working it out. Like I said, little by little, and just kind of like collecting tunes right now.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have a link down in the description for his EP and Bandcamp, and you can check out all of his stuff there. And always can check him out on Instagram. What is it, Vin? What's the hashtag there?
At VinMottBlues. At VinMottBlues.
There you go. And that'll also be in the description. And I just had a new track come out under my artist/producer name, Lo-Fi, spelled L-O-P-H-I. And the song is called Cold Brew, and it is featuring one and only Mark Dollar. And Mark Dollar was another guest on our show. Mark is one of the most fantastic guitar players there is, flat out. and I'm lucky enough to have him on this track. And so far, it's been received well. I've already seen that it was accepted onto one of a decent sized playlist, and
Nice.
hopefully we can get it on some other ones and get that thing cooking. But we'll make sure there's a link in the description to that one as well, and there is more music to come. So,
Hell yeah.
but that being said, Vin, I think we're ready to do it and dive on in.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
So we're going to continue our conversation from last week because we felt like we just couldn't get it all into one episode. And if you weren't listening last week, what we talked about were songs that had strong connections to movies, that when you think of this song, it's hard not to think of the movie. And we talked about some excellent movies and songs last week.
Yeah. Mostly genre specific, too.
This is true.
Movie genre specific.
This is true.
We had
So
baseball movies. We had mafia movies.
Mm-hmm,
It's cool. Check
and
that one out.
and that was actually kind of accidental. It was just kind of how our brains both went. And this week, I think the same kind of thing happened. That I just naturally went one way, thought of one song, which made me think of a group of songs, and that's how I'm gonna work. And then Vin's got his way of working as well.
Yeah, so I have two tunes to talk about today, from very different movies, in two different decades, and so I'm gonna start with a little story, and this story is about the tune called "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees. Of course, this was a tune that was written for the soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever. It did not exist before then. That was the album it came out on and everything. It was released in December of 1977, same year as the movie, of course. And as you can imagine, Staying Alive, most people know this tune. It was a mega hit in the disco era. It kind of, they say, I guess disco was like sort of kind of getting to its last legs at this point. And they say this song was kind of revitalized it for a moment before it fizzled out. But so yeah, everybody knows this tune. It's that famous guitar lick. I think I have. Did I learn it?
Uh-oh.
I think I got it. Right? Everybody knows that. To that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
Right? Everybody knows it. And of course, everyone knows the
Opening
infamous falsetto voices that they sang in. They were known for singing in most of their tunes. Not everything, though, if you know your Bee Gees tunes, but a lot of things.
A lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it. If they're not, if like say like, because like I really like that tune, Nights on Broadway. This has nothing to do with Saturday Night Fever, but Nights on Broadway. I think it was before. I think it was 75. And that one is, I think it's Barry Gibbs singing, and he's not using a falsetto the entire time, but all the background vocals are in falsetto, which is hilarious. And that's a great tune on its own. You should hear that one. I have a really weird soft spot for both bands that I'm going to talk about today. But the first one is the Bee Gees for sure. Like, not a soft spot. I should say it's a guilty pleasure.
No need to feel guilty about it, man. There's, I mean, again, that riff right there. Like, I mean,
it's hard. That's a fucking tough, masculine riff, you know. And the key it's in, it's F minor, I think. I don't know. It just, and the beat, and there's a great story about the beat I'll get to. Anyway, so they were asked by the executive producer of the movie, his name is Robert Stigwood, to write a couple of tunes for the soundtrack. And of course, they wanted one of the tunes, this one specifically, to have the same name as the movie, which at that time, we're talking when the movie was in production, At that time, they were just calling it Saturday Night. They did not have the fever yet. But the Bee Gees already wrote a song called Night Fever, which you probably may know too. Another fantastic Bee Gees. So they thought, they were just like, we already have the word night in the title of another tune, and there's no change in that fucking hook, So instead, what they did was they renamed the movie Saturday Night Fever instead of having the title song change its name from Staying Alive to Saturday Night.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is kind of, to me, that's like a backwards way of how that came to be.
Sure.
Like that the song dictated the title of the movie.
I mean, yes and no. If you recognized how big a hit it was going to be, like somebody along the way was like, this song is going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than the movie. And that we could do a whole episode on that, where there are definitely songs that had more accolades than the movies they were in.
Sure. I don't know if this one would fall into that category.
No,
this was a mega hit movie too.
Oh, no,
especially again for the second week in a row to talk about an Italian American classic. I think my mom always says, not really my mom's generation. Well, maybe my mom's generation, kind of. Yeah, maybe actually that's it. My mom's generation, of Italian Americans in the New York, New Jersey area. This was like looking in a mirror for those kids, I think for a lot of them at least. And there was plenty of Italian American fucking tradition in the movie as well, when they show his family and shit, and the problems with his family he's having, and eating dinner and all that. It's a really great movie, actually. And it's about disco dancing. So, generally speaking, most of the Bee Gees tunes are written by Barry and Robin Gibb. This tune lyrically is about the survival in the streets of New York. Like I said before, it's got a very macho vibe lyrically and a strutting beat to match the attitude. Now, the beat is the most... I did not know anything about this before I read it today doing research for this tune. And this is the coolest part about this song, I think. So the drum beat was created using some pretty intense studio magic for the 70s, I think. I mean, I think this has been done before, but the fact that this is what they did is just kind of mind-blowing. So the band's drummer, during the sessions for the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, right? Like I said, there were a few tunes on this. How Deep Is Your Love, More Than a Woman, Night Fever, Staying Alive. All were recorded just for the soundtrack. So the drummer in the middle of the sessions had to leave because his mother had unfortunately passed away. But the sessions continued on. And so now they're basically a band in the studio without their drummer. Well, what they did was they had already recorded drums for Night Fever. And if you think of Night Fever, it's kind of got the same groove, you know what I mean? I mean, all disco kind of has the same groove, right?
Sure.
So fucking, they took a 2-bar sample and snipped it out of the fucking tape for that tune and looped it. And that's all the drum part is on Staying Alive, is just one thing. And if you notice, there's never a crash. There's never a fill.
No,
it's literally just the one steady beat. And of course, somebody could have done this in the studio, I mean, it's not undoable for a drummer to not overplay, or if you tell somebody to just do one thing and not add anything, it's doable.
But to do it that perfectly the whole time.
Yeah.
Would be really hard.
It's just funny that this huge mega hit was just a 2-bar sample drum beat that they recorded everything else live like a band over that loop.
It's not, to me, it's not totally, it like you said, it is certainly early in history to be doing that, but But at the same time, I'm not shocked that they were able to get something that felt really good. The fact of the matter is that if the groove is there, if the pocket, you know what I mean? If if in the original recording, because it was still played by a human, it's not like it was all machine. It was like, so like his pocket was there, then.
Yeah, and like I said, it was only a 2-bar sample, so they like looked all through that, like bar by bar. They went and like just found the best 2-bar phrase with the best feel and cut that one.
Sure.
I just think it's really cool that they did that. So like the band would jokingly refer to this drum loop as Bernard Loopy, which was like a play on words of Bernard Purdy.
Sure.
And people would ask them like, oh, who is your session drummer and this and that, and they would say that Bernard Loopy was the drummer, and people were upset when they heard that person did not exist. And the same loop was used for More Than a Woman as well, the same exact loop. So they used that 1 2-bar drum loop for Staying Alive and More Than a Woman.
It's it's a prime example. Like I said, man, if the groove is there, if it feels good, especially when it comes to dance music, man. No, like dance music, there, like you were saying before, there it's no surprises. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if you had asked him to play a disco groove, he probably would have played something very similar to what ended up being.
Yeah, right. Yes, of course.
Anybody, if you asked anybody.
If there would have been any difference, Yeah,
it's like when
from
you
song to song anyway, I don't know.
If you ask me
we'll never know.
If you ask me to make a dance track now, I'm going to immediately, in my brain, I'm like, okay, somewhere in here is going to be 4 on the floor,
maybe he had like a bass drum pattern written to go along with the guitar part, and Staying Alive, and we didn't get that. Instead, we got a loop, we don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it could go either way, though. They might have written, like adjusted to that drum part,
True.
But,
yeah.
But continue on, my friend.
That's about it, man. I just thought that was fucking cool. And obviously, Staying Alive, I mean, the whole thing was like the first, so when they dropped like the soundtrack as an album, the first single they released was not Staying Alive. I think it was More Than a Woman or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Or How Deep Is Your Love, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and fucking once people started going to see the movie and they see that opening shot of Travolta strutting around Brooklyn with this fucking tune just like thumping in the movie theaters, and kids would start calling the radio stations and saying like, oh, could you play that other one off the soundtrack, fucking Staying Alive? And then that's how this became like the biggest hit from the soundtrack.
Sure.
Because this song coupled with the imagery from the movie just it's made a huge impact.
It's really interesting that Travolta is kind of linked with that. Same thing with Grease. It's almost the same kind of thing as the intro, same kind of song. Like what I mean? That first song. I mean, that's obviously a musical. So, but I don't know which one came first in terms of time period for him.
I don't know either.
Because it's interesting that but then I can't. For me, I think
with Travolta, man, at that time, man, I think they found a little bit of a rhythm to get into with like when you cast Travolta into a movie,
Yeah.
He was definitely a male sex symbol of the late 70s.
Yeah, well, the only thing that you didn't directly say about this song is that the first lyric in this song, you said you can feel the masculinity and you could feel the strut, but you didn't
say it. Go ahead, because
it's one of the most notable lyrics of all time, and I guarantee people know this lyric and then probably know none of the other lyrics except for the chorus,
except for
exactly. So the opening lyric of, well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk.
Yeah, right, man.
That's a badass lyric.
The whole first verse is a masterpiece.
And in that falsetto too, like how not masculine, even, like, to put it in the falsetto. It's so.
But back in the disco era, that was the hottest thing to chicks, I think.
No, it's badass as hell.
The chest meat rocking.
Yeah, but I'm all for that. That's the Mark Dollar special he wants me in. The vest and no shirt.
And a sweet falsetto singing voice. That's all you needed. Polyester fucking clothes.
But hell yeah, man. And actually, again, when you start thinking about Travolta stuff, I can't help but think about Pulp Fiction and start thinking about that. I mean, that's a whole soundtrack in and of itself. Man.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Of course.
So you could do a whole thing on, like, songs connected to John Travolta.
Yeah, that's for sure. The theme to Welcome Back, Kotter is maybe one of my favorite songs of all time.
Crazy. Well, sorry.
Isn't that a great song? No,
Well, Staying Alive or the Welcome Back Kotter song?
The Welcome Back Kotter theme song. I love that song.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could do we could do many episodes on different things. But what you got next?
You want me to just finish up here?
No, you know what?
My second one.
No, you know what? You want to trade off real fast?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I'm taking it a little differently this week. As we said, we each had our kind of own little rules that we put onto ourselves, and I decided to go with. Basically what happened is I thought of one song, and that made me just go, well, holy crap. So I'm not going to tell you the song that I thought of, but I'm going to tell you the first song. The first song I'm going to do is I'm All Right by the one and only Kenny Loggins.
Yes.
And if you don't know it, you probably do know it. If you've ever seen the movie Caddyshack, it is the theme song. And it's, like I said, it's a notable one. As soon as you hear it, you're going to be like, yeah.
He's the classic 80s movie theme song guy.
Oh, Kenny Loggins, and that's what happened is that my brain, as soon as I started thinking about one song, it was just immediately like, well, this guy was the theme song guy. Yeah, like he made his living as a songwriter / artist for some of the biggest theme songs of the 80s. And it's impressive, like it actually, like he nailed it, and it's cool. And like I said, this was actually, I don't remember if it's the first of his or not, but I think it might be. It was definitely one of the biggest ones. There's not really too much to know about this one other than, it's just a classic song and from a classic movie, and one of the first ones for Kenny. As a side note, for anybody who's a fan of the show Lucifer, which is a current Netflix show, I happen to be a fan.
Is it good? Really? Because I always put it off. I'm like,
I mean, it might be. Listen, he's a sarcastic, kind of dry kind of guy, dark. It's me. Like if the devil were walking on the planet, I guess it would be.
Maybe I'll give it a shot.
He's just a sarcastic. Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. It's my show when I'm ready to just turn off my brain and yeah. So, so the song gets used at the beginning of episode 10 in season 4. So if you want to check that out,
I'm All Right.
Yeah, he like comes out. I don't know if it's the original version. It may be a redone version, but they definitely use it specifically. Like Lucifer comes out like. So that's the first of mine. I'm going to just get into the second one, and then I'm going to pass it back to you because my third one is really the coup de grace. So
okay, yeah.
So the next one is what you probably think of first when you think of Kenny Loggins, and that is the song "Footloose."
Yes.
Now this one is a massive song. A massive song, right? So, I guess, I didn't mention Caddyshack. That was 1980. Okay. So, Footloose is 1984. And the theme song, Footloose, went number 1 for 3 weeks during March and April of 1984. And it was eventually selected by the National Recording Registry, by the Library of Congress for preservation. So that's pretty much the highest honor that the government can pay to a song.
Yeah.
They said I forgot the exact wording, but it was something about what it represented for the time period historically. Like it carried so much weight, which is, like I said, really that's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I have a little story about this one, and I'll do my best to, give you the information that I know as honest truth. So this song, if you listen to it, well, I mean, let's just put it this way. The 80s were a very fun time.
Very fun.
Very fun. And particularly in the world of the wealthy and famous, there was a lot of partying and enjoyment going on.
Yes, a lot of ski trips.
Yes, if you will.
Lots of skiing.
And you can kind of hear it in the music. And I don't just mean this music. I mean, like, all of the 80s music. You can kind of hear it. In some, not all of it, but like there's some stuff where you're like, oh, okay, that tempo was a little quick there, And Footloose might be one of those songs that might
may be.
And if you listen to it carefully, it's just kind of all over the place, but not. And what
I think the whole cast of that movie may have been on a ski trip.
It's possible. I mean, Caddyshack, it was like known that what a ridiculous movie set that was. So Footloose.
That cast is just that cast ridiculous.
But so during the recording of Footloose, it was just, you have to imagine that this thing was like on tape, right? So anytime you would start and stop the recording in the studio, it would be like that slow down or start up sound. Footloose. And that's the thing, is if you go listen now, you'll be like, wow, there's a random clap like over here, and then like and then there's a stop here, and you only hear this sound one time in the right ear, and then like no snare drum for the 2 measures, and then a random one. If you go check it out, there's a bunch of randomness in there. It's scattered, but not like it's just, you can definitely feel the energy. It's all and like I said, there was some fun in. Not so fun. I can tell you that it took many hours actually to make that all happen. That all of those things were like very specifically placed, and like.
But luckily, there was no more snowfall that night.
Well, let's say like it could have just been 2 straight days, and nobody knew that it was 2 straight days without sleeping. They had worked on it, and they had only really moved 1 snare drum. But yeah, so that, like I said, Footloose, not much else to talk about it. If I were to break them down, even this and the third song, if I were to get into like the true analytical sense of them, there are things that were like, for lack of a better way of putting it, quintessential 80s stuff. But like, definitely, like I said, some of these interesting stops. In both of those, in Caddyshack and in I'm Alright and Footloose, both of them have like kind of strange stops here or there. They have the hooky chorus parts that everybody knows to sing along with. There's really good songwriting stuff. It makes sense that these songs were massive, as massive as they were.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm going to pass it back to you for now.
Cool. Well,
Go ahead.
Perfectly. You said Footloose was 84?
Yes, sir.
Well, that couldn't work out any more perfect, because the song I'm going to talk about and the movie that it came out in 1985.
Right.
And I'm going to talk about The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News, which was written for the Back to the Future soundtrack. Everyone knows Back to the Future.
Yes.
Of course, it's Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Yes, sir.
So 1985 release, and this happens to be the band's first #1 hit on the Billboard Top 100.
Interesting.
I did not do the due diligence and find out when like Sports came out, because I think that's their first record. And I thought it was before that. Maybe they didn't have a #1 hit off that. I can't see how they didn't, with like Hard Rock and Roll, and there were so many good ones on that fucking record. This, again, like I said earlier at the beginning of my first segment, Huey Lewis in the News is a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I do very much enjoy, although I enjoy almost nothing but from the 80s, I enjoy this band, which couldn't be any more quintessential 80s sounding. The only difference between this band and all the other fucking new wave, weird cheese pop shit, which this is clearly, is that Huey Lewis is a harmonica player.
That's what
and
did
like
it
a
for
pretty
Finn.
good one. Look up Huey Lewis harmonica on YouTube, and you'll see some pretty damn good harp playing by fucking Huey Lewis. And he does play on fucking a lot of these 80s tracks. Like, we'll have a random harmonica solo at the end of the tune, like in A Heart of Rock and Roll. Is the Heart of Rock and Roll still beating? That's a hit from this band off Sports. Anyway, I don't know how this, if Sports was after this, I get it, but I think it's called Sports. Am I getting that wrong too? Fuck them. I don't care. So there's really I could not find like any much of a story behind this tune and why Huey Lewis was picked for it. I think just because it was the beginning and the end of the movie is set in the mid 80s, and Huey Lewis is a mid 80s artist, right? So I just did a quick analysis. It starts in pretty hardcore C, and it's just it's like power chordy, kind of C, E, F, G. Right? And that becomes the chorus later. But then the verse comes in and it switches to C minor to F.
Interesting.
With a really cool little rhythm guitar line underneath it. Beep, 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 boom, and all the big
Horn.
stabbing 80s horns.
Yep.
You know, shit like that going on. Huey Lewis just singing some super cheesy, generic love, like pop lyrics. I don't know. There's nothing really to say about him. You read him and it's like, you know, it's not that he wasn't a genius in the writing of it, because it's so 80s. There's no other way to describe how the whole essence of the band is just so 80s. Like, oh my God. Like, I would imagine the drummer being like an 80s cartoon dinosaur person, like character, like a cartoon playing like a fucking like electronic drum set where the drums are triangles, you know, like I don't know, fucking like Dino the Dinosaur. Anyone remember that cartoon?
Yeah.
Or like fucking like shit like that, or like fucking Captain America or some shit. like that's how I imagine like the band looking like these 80s cartoon characters. Anyway, yeah, so the verse C to F, C minor to F, and then it does the chorus again, but then the bridge comes, and the bridge is mad cool. The bridge goes to, I'm calling it E flat, right? G, C minor, F, and then, what do you got?
No, it's interesting. It's just as you're playing it, I'm like, wow, I forgot that in I'm All Right. It's the same kind of thing. It has this like weird. It is this 80s thing where there's the minor thing that they have in these. The major and minor.
Yep.
it goes, it's real obvious when it jumps to the major, like because and I'm all right in the verses, like because the choruses are that it's like pretty, I think it's G major, I'm all right, and then the verses are do what you want to do, you know, that's all minor chords,
Right?
which is, it's weird, but like
so again, E flat, G, C minor, F, and then it continues to A flat, E flat, and it kind of does that a few times. Right? Back to A flat, and then it's a G sus chord to major, you know, sus to and resolves. And then goes right back to the verse, which this time around is a solo.
Also quintessential.
Yeah, also and like a dude playing one of those guitars that looks like the end of a hockey stick, you know? Like that's what I'm imagining. He's
Kramer.
Like a shark wearing fucking sunglasses.
A Kramer or something like that.
Riding a skateboard with shorts or something. I just thought that it's cool that like the choruses are C major, you know? Yeah. And it's debatable too, because I did look up a few different chord sheets for this, because there's a couple of, especially in the bridge, you know, you may have to. I think there's, you know, like a chord with a different bass note or something like that. Like
sure,
the chorus could be C, and instead of hitting an E power chord or major chord, it could just be like just the bass changes to E, right?
Yeah.
You know, it may be that. I don't know. But, yeah, I just thought the chords were really cool. And like I said, when we first said we're going to talk about music that was written for a movie, like for the movie, and I was like, well, fuck. At first I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, well, maybe is that Huey Lewis tune fucking written for Back in the Future? It was the first one that came to my mind. I don't know why. And I'm sure later tonight and be like, oh man, like there were so many other fucking ones that I like so much more than that tune. But I do like this tune. It's fucking, like I said, like Huey Lewis. I don't know what it is. I like this band. I think they're cool.
Hey man,
especially their first record.
No need to apologize.
Me and Alex Tierney. That was an Alex Tierney classic. The first, I think it's called Sports. He was also a really big American Psycho fan. Yeah, I think it was him. You know the scene. Do you like Huey Lewis and the News?
I do know the scene.
Yeah. Tell me, you like Huey Lewis? Yeah, so that's basically all I got for that. Just a quick little analysis. Like I said, I think it's kind of cool that it switches to the C minor, and the bridge has just like the bridge just travels over these chords. That's, I don't know. It's really a very it's very different because it's not just a repeated chord progression. It's like a journey of chords through the bridge.
Well, I like I said though, there is like a really interesting thing. Like I said, I'm all right is right in lines with that. It really is like major and then minor, same key. Very odd, but when you think about it, very odd. But at the same time, it makes the hook feel like such a hook. You know what I mean? Like I guess that's really the key is like. And it seems to be a, like, you know, you and I were joking about it, but like this time period, this is when this happened most. You know, like there's definitely other songs that have been, you know, again, excluding the obvious Disney stuff, you know, like, but there's obviously other songs that have been for movies. But I guess the next song that I'm going to talk about is another one. Another Kenny Loggins, like I said.
Oh.
So, but this is the one that I think of and I thought of first that led me down this dark hole. Or not a dark hole. It's a great hole. The best kind of hole. Yeah. But the song I'm talking about is Danger Zone.
Yeah.
From the one and only movie
Danger Zone.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Now, this one I got a little bit more information on. I didn't do the analysis on it, and I was trying to think about it also about like I'm trying to think of, do I even know the verses? Footloose, same thing. I can't think of the verses of Footloose. Like, which is
Yeah.
So
I get sometimes I get Footloose, like I put the chorus of Footloose onto the what's it called? The Prince song. Oh no, let's go. What the fuck is that song?
I go crazy. Yeah,
let's go crazy. Yeah. Let's go crazy. I don't know why.
Well, so well, I guess I think I forget if it was this song or Footloose. One of the songs lost like best song of the year or best movie song of the year to like Stevie Wonder, and it just proves my point. It's like this was the time period where like people
right.
were,
maybe for the Outsiders, because Stevie Wonder did the
no,
Outsiders.
it was Lady in the Red Dress. What was the I can't remember which song. But yeah, but it just proves my point. Like everybody was getting hired to do movie songs, right? Yeah. But so Danger Zone. First of all, I didn't know, but I guess I did, that Top Gun is one of the top-selling soundtracks of all time. I don't know how high, like, on the list it is. Yeah, I didn't look how high it is, but overall, the entire soundtrack, apparently, there were some massive hits on there.
Wow.
This one being, I think, the biggest.
Sorry, just the mosquito that keeps bothering me.
No, it's cool. Actually, I got one before, too, myself. It's that time of year, But, so, now, here's a little stuff, some information I did not know about this one. So this one, to me, I automatically think Kenny Loggins, But originally, the first band that the song was pitched to was Toto.
Oh.
And Toto was going to be the performing artist. The song had already been written.
Right.
But apparently there were some legal conflicts between the producers and the lawyers of the band, and so that kind of got held up. So then they asked Bryan Adams if they could use Only the Strong Survive and to have him perform Danger Zone on the album. And that was, so they wanted him to do Danger Zone. The bait that they were giving him was that they would also put on another one of his songs onto the project.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he declined because he felt that the movie would glorify war and did not want to associate with it.
Getting political.
Right. So it's interesting. So like we're at 2 artists already. Right. Then REO Speedwagon was asked next.
Wow, really?
Yep. But they declined because in the offer to them, there was no offer about putting their music on the album. They were just being hired to perform just Danger Zone.
Right.
Then Corey Hart, who I'm not familiar with, but apparently was an artist at the time, was approached, but he also declined because he preferred to write and perform his own material and wouldn't do another song. So,
at what point were the people in charge just like, well, why don't we just have the guy who wrote it sing it, because he did that for like a ton of other fucking movies before this?
So it's hard to tell. I'd have to look back. Kenny might be listed as a writer, but I don't know that he was there for the initial writing. You know what I mean? He might have not been given that writing credit until he was put onto the song. I'm not sure. But I feel like he was probably involved in some way or somehow. And if he wasn't, then that means he was like a friend of the producer, or,
Right. Yeah.
Just because I can see in these names, like REO Speedwagon worked with Jim Scott, who worked on Footloose. There's names in here that I'm like, oh, okay, I see that, how there was a connection and throughout all of these things.
Yeah, right.
But finally, somebody, like you said, turned to Kenny and was like, hey, Kenny, you want to give it a shot? And he was like, Absolutely, and went and recorded it immediately. And
Yes, I do.
yeah, and he went and did it immediately, and it went on to be a huge hit. I didn't see if it was number one. I don't think it was a number one, but it was a massive theme song, and I think it became, for lack of a better term, a cult theme song, a cult favorite. There's people who know the song and don't know the movie.
Sure.
You know.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I should say it this way. I've seen this movie one time only in my life.
Okay,
but I know the song "Danger Zone" pretty well.
You know, the reason I'm familiar with this movie, really, it's before my time. But when DVD became the thing, you know, everything switched over to DVDs. We did a search for what were the best things that were going to be on DVD right away, and Top Gun was like the most sought after one. People were waiting for that. Like,
really?
Because they were waiting for like the high quality of the sound effects of the fighters passing by, all that stuff. Right. Yeah. So people were really into it. So that was why I'm familiar with the movie. But yeah. So now, interestingly enough, Kenny, I guess around in 2008, Kenny Loggins, or is it Loggins? I don't know. I said Loggins.
It's Loggins.
Yeah,
no, nobody says Loggins.
That's what I thought. I was I don't know why I just
that's like
myself.
when you have a cough, you got to take a Loggins.
Yeah. But he says that if there would be one regret in his career, it would actually be this song. Which is
drama.
Interesting, though. I think it's just because he says it doesn't really represent him, is what how he feels. And I'm sure every artist has that song. We know the Beatles had like a bunch of songs that way. And I guess the last note on this is that Kenny has confirmed that this song will make a return in the new Top Gun movie that's coming out.
I didn't even know they're making a new Top Gun movie.
I did. I think it's actually like it either was supposed to come out and got pushed back because of COVID, or it's coming out soon.
Shit.
But yeah. If I remember correctly, some of the original people are returning for certain things. It's kind of a reboot of sorts, I suppose.
Get Tom Cruise in there.
Yeah, if he's not busy being a Scientologist,
jumping on Oprah's couch or whatever.
Him and Chick Corea.
Chick Corea.
Scientologists together.
There's a real famous story about Chick Corea at Berkeley, but I don't know if I should tell it because of the same reasons we've discussed before.
Maybe that'll be for another episode.
Although, fuck it, whatever. I didn't know Chick Corea before this. I don't know.
Well, yeah, he's a Scientologist, like deep. Since early,
I knew that. I knew that about Chick Corea.
One of the earliest.
I mean, I'm not really into fucking Chick Corea's music anyway.
I don't really know much about Scientology.
I respect him as a fucking.
I don't know about Scientology. I don't know about none of it. Yeah. To be completely honest, I know.
All I know.
I saw the building when I was in LA.
Was really hot.
Who was that?
All I know is Leah Remini, the lady who escaped fucking Scientology, and she was in fucking King of Queens and shit. All I know is she's really hot. And now she has a show that goes against Scientology and tries to bring Scientology down.
Nice. Well, I will have to check that out. I saw the building when I was in LA. It was.
Oh, really? That big famous one?
Yeah, the building.
It's so gross. All the fucking shit is I don't know.
It's all weird.
I don't know how people really. That's for. This ain't podcast to discuss this.
This is true. It's a bit strange.
What I was about to say. This is not the platform for it.
Well, I appreciate you. Well, I mean, the reality is we've pretty much hit the end of our road today.
Yeah, I did have a list of just some honorable mentions.
Well, like I said, I stumbled upon a list, and maybe we were saying maybe we might be looking at the same list, but it's the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs, which is the AFI is the American Film Institute, and right away there's a bunch of these that I was like, oh yeah, why did I not think of that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like because it's because
songs that I didn't as well, songs I didn't know were even written for a soundtrack.
Well, there's many of them that I you know, some of these are early films also, and like that just wasn't the way my brain was thinking.
Oh, right,
you know,
right. Yeah,
like,
we weren't. I don't think we were looking at the same one.
No, because I mean,
there's probably a lot of the same
on this list. You know, Over the Rainbow is the first one on the list, and it's like, duh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, duh, right? Yeah, no, my brain didn't go that way either. You know.
But then Mrs. Robinson, Simon and Garfunkel. For the Graduate.
I had that one on my list too. Mrs. Robinson.
That's one I think I only recently realized was like that was written that way.
I knew that. It's Dustin Hoffman.
I heard him. I heard Paul Simon talking about it literally just the other day on the radio, and how that they only had the hook of the song written for when the movie, like, but they were on such a short time that he only got like the hook ready in time for the movie, and they wrote the verses after the movie came out or something. Like, it was
such genius fucking verses. Yeah, I had that one. I had so clearly how this one escaped me. Eye of the Tiger from Rocky 3.
Eye of the Tiger. I mean, not to mention all of the James Bond movies. Has just occurred to me like they all
every
have,
James Bond movie has a song.
Yeah, but I mean, like, "Live and Let Die" was a massive song.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Shaft, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
Shaft, Isaac Hayes.
Yep.
Did you know that "Call Me" by Blondie was written for the American Gigolo soundtrack?
No, I did not.
And did you know the other one? One of the big ones for me, "The Harder They Come" by Jimmy Cliff. Rest in peace. We just lost him this year. "The Harder They Come" was for a famous Jamaican film called "The Harder They Come,"
Sure.
which is like, as you can imagine, a late 70s, early 80s Jamaican film is basically about how Jamaica fucking is fucking really poor.
Well, so then I've got Jailhouse Rock. Duh.
Oh man, yeah, I wasn't even, dude, and so many Sinatra songs.
Well, and so Born to Be Wild, Easy Rider, huge. That's you know what I mean?
I
Like,
didn't even think of that.
That one's one I would not have thought of, and obviously Theme from New York, New York. Like,
how about
that? You know.
Yeah. How about Across 110th Street by Bobby Womack for the movie Across 110th Street? Do you know that one?
I don't know if I do.
Across 110th Street.
No,
it's fucking bad, dude. We're putting that on the fuck. We're putting all the. I'm gonna send you all the ones I have here.
You got Luck Be a Lady.
How about Don't You Forget About Me for the Breakfast Club? That was for the soundtrack.
Yeah. That I think I had that one.
You had mentioned one earlier today, Phil, Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one because, you know, and the story on that one is real interesting too, because if you remember, I forget the songwriter on that song, but he has the song
Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah, he had a massive song that was stolen from him before that, and it was like devastating. He like thought his, you know, like that was his shot, and that he lost it.
Really,
and,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, there's some song. Yeah, you can look it up. There's a song about that. Definitely, it was stolen from him. And then the Ghostbusters song. I forget. I heard him talk about this one too. Nice. I forget. He tells the story about how, you know, how it came together, and it just, you know, obviously one of the most massive theme songs. Rare that you hear of a song, you know, like he was able to use the straight up title to write, and you know, and it's another one that everybody knows. You know, like that song is going to remain a song. Yeah. You know, like anytime somebody says, "Who you going to call?"
Ghostbusters, fuck, you see, dude. And when you said that earlier today, I almost got embarrassed because my band in college with Alex Tierney and Johnny Vinyl and all them.
You guys played that?
That was like our mainstay. Every gig we played Ghostbusters. It was our theme song. It was our unofficial theme song, practically.
I mentioned also another one from our man Bruce Springsteen. For Streets of Philadelphia, for the movie Philadelphia.
Hey, I had one too off the list I saw that is maybe not as classic as all the other tunes we've just mentioned, but
Sure.
a tune that like brings me personal nostalgia because at one time in my life I was really into sappy emo singer-songwriter types. Miss Misery by Elliott Smith for the Good Will Hunting soundtrack. That to me is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. It's really not emo. It's like kind of folky, but like really depressing. There's no other way to say it. And at one time in my life, I was really into songwriters who were depressing and shit.
I mean, he's
that
a great
song
writer.
is so beautiful, man. We were teaching it at the School of Rock down here for the last season. One of the shows had that song in it. And I was like, oh man, dude, I haven't heard this song since I was like in 8th grade, man. That to me, that's like it brought a personal nostalgia to me.
I got 3 more to add to this list, and then I'm done.
Sure.
Dirty Dancing. I've had the time of my life. Duh. Another one, you know? Yeah. We, you know. Then we've got where was my other ones? Oh, well, so here's before we get to the last one. So I didn't know this one. Old Time Rock and Roll, Bob Seger for Risky Business. Was it
no
written
way.
for? Was it just in it, or was it written for it?
I would say it was just in it. No, that was on a record in the 70s.
78. Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
Right. Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, then
it was hard to. It kind of some of these were hard to decipher whether like they were written for the movie or they were just used on the soundtrack and became iconic.
I might have to double check on some of the ones I named, but I think for a majority of the ones I named were spot on. I think
I checked all mine too.
Yeah,
the only one I couldn't find too, I forgot I had this on my list. I couldn't figure out, but it should be just mentioned anyway as a movie song. You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman. Another jerking fucking.
Yeah, again, I thought there's a couple like the Disney ones that you can definitely start to like be like,
yeah,
you know, but. A modern one that I want to throw on there as my last one, because I should have popped in my head, because this is a massive one actually, is Eminem, Lose Yourself.
8 Mile.
Yeah. You know?
Yep.
That was a huge record.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
So, man, we covered a lot of ground though. But
yeah, we're gonna add like another 3 hours to the fucking playlist just off tonight.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
It's gonna just make that playlist stronger and stronger. This thing is becoming an animal of its own.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, it's you put it on shuffle and it's gonna be good.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good. But like I said, I think that about does it for us.
I think that does it, man. Yep.
We'll have to see where we take it next time. You never know. I mean, we did talk about, you know, I don't know if we're gonna keep going with the movie stuff or not, but we had talked about.
Maybe we take a left turn. Who knows?
So then, if that's the case, the one thing I did want to throw out was that that Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack is one hell of a soundtrack. Both of them, both movies. We talked about that. We could do a whole week on just that stuff. If you don't know that soundtrack, go check out that soundtrack. It's got a bunch of
another one that like I've honestly, and I heard the movies are good. I've actually never seen them.
Yeah,
but I know the soundtrack both from working at School of Rock and just, you know, from there I was like, oh shit, that song's on this soundtrack.
That's the thing. That's the thing is the songs they put on there are like really songs, gems that don't get enough love. You know, or like didn't get enough love until like people who know great songs and great songwriting from classic rock time periods knew these songs, but they're not like from the mainstream artists. A lot of them, they're like those other like, you know, slightly they're not even B-sides. They're like A-sides for B artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. You mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's really it's like clear that this person was like like a deep classic rock fan.
Right, and the curation of it is
of people.
The curation of it is just really, really great, and the fact that it was for a movie that ended up catering to a younger audience was awesome, because there's now a generation that is familiar with this music that I think would have been lost. I really, like I said, I think it would have been lost music if it wasn't, because even for myself, there's a whole mess of songs on there that I now love. Yeah. That I would not have really been familiar with the same way until I saw, heard the soundtracks. And it's very much the same. I knew the soundtracks first through working at the school before I'd even seen the movies. I happen to like the movies too, but
yeah, I heard the movies are good. I should probably just watch them fucking this week. But
they're fun. I mean, they got what's his name? Because the main guy is what's his name from Parks and Rec. You know what I mean? Like it's the same dude.
Yeah, Andy. His name's Andy from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so it's like he's like still got hints of that kind of
goofball ass.
But yeah, but he's the hero at the same time. So it's like
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's it. Well, so like I said, that was my last and final note on the movie world. We could go on and on. Actually, every time I think about it, it just keeps going down, because I was really familiar with like.
This is a fun topic.
It is, because
I've had a lot of fun the last 2 weeks talking about.
Well, listen, we're not necessarily forced to stop talking about it. And if something pops in the head, but I did have an idea, and maybe you want to check this out. But maybe this is a topic for the next time. I thought of this the other day because I was hearing a great story from Aerosmith, and I was thinking maybe
I love Aerosmith.
So maybe I'd like next week to talk about songs that have known mistakes, or like really interesting stories, or like something quirky happened in those songs, and we know it. I don't know if you know too much of that stuff, or how much of that stuff you know. I've got some really interesting ones that, and I was really interested in hearing Steven Tyler talk about. In particular,
the Walk This Way lyrics. Are you talking about?
No, he was talking about Sweet Emotion.
Oh, maybe that's what I meant.
Not even lyrics. No. There's
where he loses them, where he like lost them on the way there.
I'm sure there's that story too. No, that's not even
maybe it. Maybe I'm thinking of Walk This Way then.
But for Sweet Emotion, yeah, no. Like I said, I won't get it. Maybe we'll save it. But there's these things right away that I'm like, I have heard this song a million times, and it has never once occurred to me. Like, it's wild stuff.
I might be able to think of one or two.
I've got a song with the Beatles curse in it. That's been in there.
Oh yeah, if that's the way we're gonna go, I will be just fine.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Is like throwing. I got Guns N' Roses, the song "Rocket Queen." I don't know if you know much about how they got some of the audio for that, but I think you'll like that story. Any Guns N' Roses story.
I can think of the Doors. I can think of some garage rock. Very famous garage rock stories from very famous ballpark style garage rock tune.
All right, so maybe that's and I actually in old time rock and roll, this will be our segue, the old time rock and roll, right? So everybody knows at the beginning, and this is again, I'm lucky because I have some of these stories straight from the place. So that was recorded down in that's Muscle Shoals, recorded that famed studio. Right, and the piano that was played on is still there. And Ginty, I believe, was recording. I don't even remember if it was with the Allman Betts band. He was recording down there with somebody recently, pre-COVID, just a little bit before COVID, and they told the story of that beginning of old time rock and roll. Right, right. It happens twice, right? Wasn't supposed to. They cut it once, and then when they were going to mastering, somebody bumped the tape. And if you listen to it now, you'll go, wow, it's out of time, right?
I've always noticed that. I didn't know that was not on purpose.
So those are the kinds of stories that I'm talking about. I got a couple of stories like that where you're going to be like, what? No way.
Oh shit! All right, yeah.
So you
know
don't
what
have
though?
to-
I
it
should
doesn't-
start writing down ideas because if I think of them and don't write them down, I'll forget them immediately.
That's how these came to me. That's exactly how this came to me.
Yeah. I gotta write some of this shit down.
So,
All right.
so that leaves me a perfect segue, because if you guys want to see that episode going down, you can stay tuned up and tuned in for next week.
I know. I will.
And before we sign off and say goodnight, real fast, wrap it up. As always, check out the playlist. We already mentioned that it's going to be a super long one, but it's got all the great stuff. You can always go right to the bottom of the list, and that'll put you right where we are today, what we're talking about today. Then, again, as always, if you're feeling generous, you can shoot something over to me or Vin. And Vin's Venmo account is at Vincent-Mott, M-O-T-T. Mine is at Phil-Silverberg. That's silver like the metal, B-E-R-G. And there will be links to both of our new music and all of that, our Instagrams, in the description below. And you can check out all that good stuff there. And I think that does it, right, Vin?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hell yeah. I
right.
am looking forward to next week.
Sweet. It's gonna be a good one. So that being said, stay tuned up and tune in. Peace.